What's going on, you guys? It's been quite a bit going on in boxing. Not really fights, but just a lot of news shit, right? And it's been a lot of discussions amongst fans. Guys blaming Caleh Plant for the Canelo fight falling through. We got guys still talking about the Crawford Porter fight. Is it really going to happen? I mean, when people look at the way the PBC Canelo Plant fight fell out, then they go look at the Crawford Porter fight. Will that fight happen? And then we got Keith Thurman, who was talking big shit about Errol Spence Jr. I mean, Errol Spence Jr., you might have to see this dude, man. You may have to see Keith Thurman. I mean, because let's be honest, if he was to beat Pacquiao, would you still be in this fight? Will we even still have Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence Jr. if Keith Thurman had been successful against Manny Pacquiao? So we got quite a bit to talk about. Hit that like button as you come on in the building. What up, J Dog? I see you in the building. What's going on? Yeah, Keith Thurman was talking big shit, man. I'm gonna play the clip when more people get in the building. But yeah, he was talking, man. Everybody's seeing the sparring footage too. You see how everybody all of a sudden start posting the sparring footage. They had to. They had to post it. I mean, and it is what it is. The little Pacquiao clone was giving EJ some work. He was giving EJ some work, man. That's just what it is. People don't want to hear that shit, but that's the reality of that situation. But to start off, we're gonna start off with Canelo, right? Canelo Alvarez. So now it's looking like they're interested in the fight with Dimitri Bivol. They told us prior that this was probably going to be an option, and this is probably what they're likely going to do. Now, people say he is interested in the fight, and he will come down to 168, but he would like to know ahead of time. He kind of put that out there. Like, don't tell me at the last minute that I got to make 168, because we know Canelo likes to play his games. But in Canelo's defense from, these people, right, he's the new Mayweather. Mayweather did it, so Canelo could do it. That seems like the new thing now, the new defense mechanism for Canelo Alvarez and his nonsense. Let's be honest, people. Reports came out that Caleh Plant had his side of the fight signed weeks ago. They said he was signed, sealed, and delivered. He was ready to go. Weeks ago. This is what they were saying. ESPN said this. And, Canelo wanted a one-way rematch clause, and actually, he wanted a replacement just in case somebody got COVID, right? We already know that. However, PBC allegedly, this is what I heard behind the scenes, that PBC actually agreed to give a Canelo the guarantee with the replacement opponent, but they wanted to pick this replacement opponent, and Canelo wasn't having it. That's what I heard really would have happened. Okay? And so now we're looking at the Canelo Bivol fight. I mean, is it a good fight? I mean, yeah, Bivol has been pretty inactive. He's fought May 1st, I believe, against a guy named I can't remember the guy's name. Just a get back type fight for him. Nobody even knew about it, but he fought in May, and prior to that, he fought when I last was media out here in Chicago at the fight with Usyk and Witherspoon. That's the last time he fought prior to him in May. So it was 2019. So that was 2 years prior to him fighting. He hasn't fought in a while. But he said he's ready for Canelo, and this is right up Canelo's alley. A guy that's kind of been inactive, a guy that's over 35, shit like that, man. That's just the reality about Canelo Alvarez. I know people don't like to hear it. I know people don't be wanting to hear that shit, but hey, that's just the reality of it, man. He's fighting these guys that's been sitting on the couch. He's been on his European tour. When you see these polls they got put up, it's never anybody, like a Benavidez, Charlo, and Andrade. It's always the Triple G's. These just the same guys. Okay? It's the same fucking guys. It's like boxing itself is protecting Canelo Alvarez. Maybe they protecting the money in the sport of boxing because he's the only guy with some real juice. You know what I'm saying? See, I shouldn't even start off with Canelo because I start getting fucking pissed off. But is he the new Mayweather? They say he's the new Mayweather now. Well, Floyd did it. Well, so Canelo could do it, right? But I don't recall Floyd putting so many stipulations on fighters and shit like that. A lot of Floyd's fights, he was the smaller man Other than only fights I can recall where there was some type of catchweight was the fight with Canelo, and Canelo wanted it that way. And was it who else was it catchweight for Floyd? I can't even fucking remember. But Floyd didn't do too much of that. He wasn't known as the catchweight king or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't. He may have had his way with the ring size and shit like that, but I mean that's just A side bullshit. But Canelo Alvarez be wanting everything his way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, is Bivol the best available guy? I don't know. I mean, we got Arthur Beterbiev saying that he will easily agree to a fight. Arthur Beterbiev sitting there with his hand up in the classroom like, hey, pick me, pick me. But Canelo looking around, he see nobody else got their hand up. He see Beterbiev with his hand raised and shit, and he waiting for somebody else to raise their fucking hand. But I don't know. Bivol made. I feel that Bivol just kind of tailor made for him, man. I seen Bivol fight live. Honestly, he belongs at 168 anyway. But could he beat Canelo? Canelo's going to be the slicker fighter, people, and this is what they're doing. They putting him in there where he's the slicker, faster guy, and that's just what it is, man. It's annoying as shit. You said Heyman cost Plant $10 million. Salute to everybody in the building. Hit that like button for your boy. I mean, could we blame Plant? Could we really blame? I mean, I know that's the easy thing to do, right? And y'all know how I am about shit. I call it. You don't never know what Bushido's gonna say. You know what I'm saying? And in this case, I think Canelo was being a diva. And y'all know I know that PBC has shown a history of guys from the outside looking in, getting a fight with them seems to be close to impossible. And this is a common pattern with them. So I get it. But I think that based off what I heard, they agreed to every fucking thing to get Canelo Alvarez on the team. And they wanted to pick the replacement opponent. And we already know who that replacement likely was going to be, is one of these other top guys. I mean, we give you $40 million, at least let us pick who the replacement is going to be, bro. You know what I'm saying? But that's Canelo for you. He's a new Floyd. So he could do it because he's the new Floyd and all this other shit, right? He could do whatever, that's just Canelo Alvarez. Fans come up with these crazy excuses. And when I see this shit, it's like, okay, this isn't good for the sport. This is a guy who's supposed to be the face of the sport, the best. You know what I'm saying? I mean, shit. You're supposed to be trying to fight the best, the absolute best, at their best. I don't know. I guess Canelo could do whatever he wants because he's the new Mayweather, though. Canelo fans don't like this shit. You know what I'm saying? And I was one of the main dudes. Where are all these guys at? A lot of these dudes are fake Canelo fans, too. Because back when Canelo and Triple G was beefing, where was y'all at? It was guys like your boy Bushido ride with Canelo during those times. Where was y'all at then? Now all of a sudden, everybody seems to be a Canelo fan. And we all see the bullshit. Everybody was talking about the bullshit back then when he was beefing with Triple G back during that saga. Now all of a sudden, everybody forgot about all the bullshit. It's just that your boy Bushido got fed up with it. Honestly, I got fed up with the Canelo shit. I got fed up with it. Honestly, I got fed up with Canelo. But yeah, moving forward, Keith Thurman was talking some big shit, man. And I'm going to mix the Crawford Porter, all the welterweights. I'm going to just mix this all in one. But Keith Thurman was talking some big shit, man. Man, I mean, it seems like these dudes get really, really cocky when they got when their rivals got fights and shit lined up and shit, man. That's just something. Maybe I'm looking too deep into that shit, but Keith Thurman was talking some big shit. I mean, Errol, you gotta see this dude. Talking about fuck Keith Thurman and all this shit, and you got fans cheerleading that bullshit. No. It should be fight Keith Thurman. I've had enough of this guy. He didn't give me a shot early on, and now that I'm the man, now I don't want to give him. Now he talking shit. Now I'm about to beat this dude. No, it ain't like that though. That's not how it works though. That's just not how this works, people. That's not how this works. I think Keith Thurman deserves to get the fight. What the fuck? Why not? Keith Thurman's talking shit, man. I'm gonna play the clip. He was talking some big shit. Errol got to see this dude. I don't think he gonna get past Bud though. I don't think unless they make a way to make Porter, I mean not Porter, but Thurman and Spence fight, he ain't getting past Crawford. He ain't getting past the boogeyman Bud, man. He ain't getting past that dude. It's not happening. It's just not happening. He ain't getting past boogeyman. But hold on, I'm gonna play this clip. He was talking some big shit, man. He was talking big shit. Probably trying to distract Errol Spence too, man. These dudes been coming out. You know, you got guys kind of riding with Pacquiao and shit. They really throwing Spence off his game. Here we go.
I think he really hates that he was the 12 Olympics, that I had a little bit of a gap before him to make a name. And that gap, he's been beating who I beat, stopping people, you know, knocking out Bundu to make a statement. You know what I mean? And no matter what statement he makes, the next question is, so what do you think about Thurman? You know, and I feel that, and I feel like that can make you juggle down some motherfucking hatery. Okay, eventually he's gonna.
Hold on, you guys.
Run out of options to make a legitimate, enticing pay-per-view match, right? His first pay-per-view against Mikey, whack sparring session people paid for, whack. You know what I'm saying? Him versus Porter, that the fight was good because Porter made it good. That's what Porter does. Porter makes a fight a fight. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna really, you know, and he won the fight, you know, but I still don't see EJ himself as a dominant, you know, pay-per-view force, you know, with the way that he boxes and his style. He's very picky. He takes his time. He fights his fight. Fuck the fans. And I get it, EJ. Fuck the fans. Win the fight. Do what you and coach got to do to stay champ. I get that. I understand that Floyd philosophy. I'm walking out of this ring the winner today. That's very important. But, you know, I know, like I said, he's going to run out of options when it comes to making one of a very exciting, enticing pay-per-view fight. He has Pacquiao now. It's perfect. It's big. Post-Pac, what you got? So be it. If he puts all his life force and energy to never see me in the ring, so be it. You know what I mean? It was never my intention. I always intended to fight him in 2020. I thought it was an Olympic year. I was going to beat Pacquiao. I was going to be the undefeated welterweight. This fight right now that's about to happen is supposed to be my fight. Thurman wins, this fight never manifests. Just doesn't even manifest, right? So only because of me does he get to dodge me. So if he really truly dodges me and throughout our whole career at the end of it, I'm going to know it happened because of me falling short of victory in the summer of 19.
Keith Thurman is man, he's good. He can talk some shit. You know what I'm saying? He said a lot. Now some may look at it as hating, but he said the Mikey Spence fight was a sparring session that people paid for. He said the only reason why Spence and Porter was good is because of Porter. And he said that basically Errol Spence, for lack of better words, is a boring fighter. He was really picky, and he's a boring fighter. That's basically what he said. And that Errol Spence is putting a lot of energy into not fighting him. That's basically what Keith Thurman said in a nutshell, people. Hit that like button for your boy. What's up, loyal to the game boxing? I see you in the building. You say you want a link? Yeah, I'll get you a link, man. Yep. I mean, hey, that's what Thurman said. You know, I mean, let me go ahead and get this set up for you. Yep. That's what he said. He said that Errol Spence Jr. is boring. There go the link right there, loyal to the game. You know. Yeah. Hit that like button for your boy D-Lo 404 Boxing. I see you in the building. What's going on? Keith Thurman was talking big shit. And for the people who's just stopping in, we already talked about Canelo Alvarez being a new Mayweather. And now we on a welterweight situation. And Keith Thurman said some pretty interesting things about Errol Spence Jr. I mean, there's options for Spence, but Spence said that he was likely going to move up to 154 after they see what's going on with Terrence Crawford. I sent Loyal to the Game Boxing a link because he wants to. He's a Spence guy, so he wants to really battle your boy, you know, in this situation. But really, there's nothing to even debate anymore. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. Will Crawford Porter happen? Will we see Crawford versus Porter based off of what we know? We've seen in the past that certain fights, man, Al Heyman seems to pull these guys out of these mandatory fights. Like, it'd be mandatory fights, and he'll pull certain guys out of these fights. I'm hoping he don't do the same for Crawford Porter. Hopefully Crawford Porter happens. You know what I'm saying? But if it doesn't happen, one would have assumed that Al Heyman really just didn't want it to happen. Hit that like button for your boy. He said, I need less trolling and more fighting out of today's boxers. Yeah, man. AJ John says, but Thurman had his chance. We got to tell the whole story. He ducked Errol for years, and now he has no belt, so he's desperate. Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, shit. Yeah, that's all true. Keith Thurman was playing games. You know, he was playing games. But now, I mean, what goes around comes around, right? So, in that aspect, your boy Bushido's got to be like, well, hey, it's a little bit of karma for Keith. I mean, I'm going to still stand with that. It's a little bit of karma for Keith. You know, even though the situation was a lot different, you know, Errol Spence was still kind of like a prospect back then. Either way, I still think they should fight. You know, I still think they should fight. Errol should have even more of a reason to want to fight Keith Thurman now. And I'm going to be adding my man Loyal to the Game Boxing to the stream. Y'all, salute and, you know, be respectful to my man. He's a Spence guy, but be respectful. He's a good guy.
What's good with you, family?
What's going on, man?
I'm chilling, man. You know, I got a little alert, you know, about what you're doing. You know, I always respect what you're doing on here. Yeah, but there's just a lot of holes in what you're saying, though. So I'm here to fill in some of the gaps for the fans, because I know we got a lot of you know, fake Crawford fans who are really anti Spence fans. You know, they jump to the Crawford bandwagon. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that there's a lot of those out there, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of those in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Because, as I always said, if these guys were these huge Crawford fans, why did they buy the pay-per-views to have Crawford in the position he in right now? But we're going to put that on the back burner. We're going to deal with Keith sometime Thurman. We're going to deal with him.
Let's hear what you got to say about what Keith
said. Keith sometime Thurman. Well, first off, look, if you're a person who's just a true boxing fan who's not biased, who follows the sport of boxing and follows the stories, everyone knows Keith Thurman ducked Errol Spence. I mean, everyone knows that. And it's not just, you know, what he said, it's just also his body language when Errol Spence was brought up all the time. Like, his body language was just off. It was like, oh, the boy this, the boy that, you know, he let him fight this person that, you know, and then Spence walked through these people. Let's talk about Bundu, right? Because everyone said, oh, Bundu was old when Spence fought him, right? Well, he fought him a year after Keith Thurman. I mean, it's only 365 days. Let's say it was 400 days. I mean, Keith Thurman was pretty marked up against Leonard Bundu. He dropped him in the first round, and he boxed a cruise to a victory. And that's what Keith Thurman's problem is to this day. Keith Thurman's problem is he's a front-running fighter. He's like just a way better version of Zab Judah, where he starts out quick, he could get a knockdown early in the fight, and then he goes to cruise to victory and tries to just outboxes you and, you know, plays it safe. That's the things we saw with Keith Thurman once he stepped up in competition, i.e. Leonard Bundu, who was old when he fought Leonard Bundu. This is what we saw. Like what Spence said to Kell Brook, Chris Algieri got him up out of there easy. Leonard Bundu got him up out of there easy. And I think a lot of the things that people really, it's Spence has a lot of fault in this, is that he was very unfocused once he got the bag. I'm just gonna keep it 100 with that, because you have to just be real. When he got the bag, he became unfocused. Partying, he was out there, he was coming to camp fat. I remember when he took his first pictures with his belt for the Mikey Garcia fight, he was flabby. He looked weird. He looked bad. I remember those first pictures. They're not even out there. I can't even find them. And Keith Thurman is living off of that, and that's cool. But let's just not forget, Errol Spence was on an 11 knockout streak. And a lot of people don't, the people who don't really follow Errol Spence like his true supporters do. But that happened with Blu-ray, his strength and conditioning coach. He fought Ronald Cruz.
Now, do you really think Blu-ray is going to make a difference?
Huge. He's gonna make a huge difference. And I'm gonna tell you why, right? And I'm just gonna keep it 100, right? You could go out here in the street, in the hood, and you could find wino niggas who was on drugs, who they take their shirt off and they cut up like a bag of dope because they working out all the time. But if they stop working out, that shit is gonna fuck their whole shit up. And Errol Spence was partying heavy. We know what alcohol does to the body biologically. We know what it does. Right. It do what it does. He ain't no different. But when you are working out with someone like Blu-ray 3 times a week, when you're not even in camp, and we're talking about 750 push-up warm-up, massive calisthenics. I mean, I spoke to Blu-ray extensively many times, and I mean, Blu-ray said he wasn't even really using weights with Errol Spence because that's not something Errol wanted to do. He wasn't comfortable with that. They was doing a lot of push-ups, dips, isometrics. Those things are going to keep you ripped. If you're doing it 3 times a week, even if you are fucking your body up, you're still going to be strong. We like I said, we see niggas in the hood that's like that. Nigga that's been smoking crack for 20 years and he's still ripped up. You know what I'm saying? So it does make a difference. Blu-ray definitely makes a difference.
Now, let me ask you this, because there's been a lot of talks about the sparring session that's been leaked. What do you think about it?
I don't like that the sparring session came out. What I think about the sparring session is that he was working on stuff, because if you listen to the sparring session, you heard Derek James telling him like, you're too high. And there was a person who broke down that sparring session, basically what the game plan was for Errol Spence. And it seemed that he was accurate based off what Derek James said. And in sparring, you're working on game plan. And another thing we'll say in sparring as well is that when we watch Errol Spence fight, it's not like everyone say, okay, he's this robotic fighter. He's not the fighter who fights the same exact fight. Like he wasn't using distance. He wasn't using anything. It looked like he was working on defense in that sparring session. And I didn't like that the sparring session came out, because it gives your opponents something to see,
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. It gives Pacquiao and his team, just even if it was just him
a minute, right?
Just him working on something, they still see what he's doing, the current version of him. Really, like I've been saying, that shit shouldn't even got out.
Right.
That footage should not have gotten out.
Yeah. I don't think it should have got out, and I think the reason it was taken down is because it shouldn't have gotten out. Nope. I feel like Derek probably told them niggas take that shit down. But here's the thing, right? There's certain consistent things we see with Errol Spence in all fights. One is his jab, which we didn't see at all in the sparring, trying to get distance and range.
He can't, because he's in there with another southpaw. That makes it he hasn't fought too many southpaws, bro.
No, he hasn't fought too many southpaws, but I mean, you are who you are. You are who you are. Errol Spence's biggest offensive weapon is his jab. I mean, even when you hear Leonard Ellerbe talk about him sparring Floyd, and I know Floyd's not a southpaw, but again, you are who you are. It's his jab. The reason why Kell Brook had so much success against him in the first half of the fight is because he was able to counter his jab the same way he was able to counter Bud's jab in the beginning of the fight. Like, that's it. So from what I saw, it looked like he was working on defense. It looks like what I see, Errol Spence is a high guard guy. He's a high guard defensive guy, and it looked like they were trying to get him to adjust his height in the ring because Manny Pacquiao shoots shots high and low, quick. So it looks like by him bending down and using his high guard, they were using that as defense to block punches up, upstairs and downstairs. Because Derek was, if you go back and look at the sparring, you'll hear Derek saying, "You're too high. You're too high." He said that in the sparring. You can hear him in the background. He kept saying, "You're too high," on defense. So there are things that people are working on in camp. I don't think that's everything we're gonna see. But the thing that I like about it though is it has everyone talking.
Yeah, it does. It does. Because let's be honest, Pacquiao and Spence, they're not gonna be going back and forth talking trash.
Right.
You're not gonna hear nothing from Spence. He's gonna be working. Pacquiao, he's probably one of the nicest dudes in the world. He ain't gonna be talking much trash. So I mean, they got to do something to kind of get the fight,
Yeah, I mean, right. You're 100% right. I mean, listen, I'm a huge Spence fan. The fucking press conference was boring. That was a boring press conference. Both guys are being respectful. Banny's trying to bait him in by saying he's better than Floyd, and it's just whatever, So look, I'm looking at this guy. I'm going to respond to Candyman Slim 501. He said, Bud took care of Brooklyn 4, EJ need 11. I mean, bro, if you are real boxing fan, right, you wouldn't make comments like that. And the reason being why I would say you wouldn't make a comment like that is because you would know a person who took a beating like Kell Brook took.
But you also gotta look at boxing fans. Crawford and Spence fans are at war with each other.
Yeah. I always gotta shoot my shot at one of them, though. You know how it go.
It's gonna be
what he's doing.
Shots being fired. Yeah. They're gonna look for any little thing to nitpick on each guy. That's just what it is, bro. What's up, my man? Steve McCarthy is in the building.
What up, man? Hey, I've been wanting to chop it up with you for a long time, man. We long overdue, man.
Yeah, man.
Kwame too, man.
Salute, brother.
So with y'all, man.
So what you gotta say, man? I mean, we know you. Canelo's your guy.
Which topic we on? We on Pacquiao, Thurman.
We on the welterweight situation right now. We talking about what Keith Thurman said about Spence.
I say what Spence said about Keith Thurman. Fuck Keith Thurman. Fuck Keith Thurman. Because let's keep it 100. Let's just keep it 100, right? Keith Thurman only been on one pay-per-view fight with all of that, and it's been with Pacquiao, and he lost.
I just don't get why is it so personal with the nigga, man. Like, to me, the way sorry for all the background noise. I'm on the road, but man, it's like okay. Thurman, he had the WBC and WBA, right? He fought Porter, fought Danny. Then he got injured, right? He was out. This is when Spence was trying to, Spence wanted to fight, of course. A lot of people wanted a shot at it. So he came off of the injury, and then he got an opportunity with Pacquiao and lost. Like, I'm not understanding why this personal, man, I'm just never going to fight you. Like, this Spence, he on some girl shit to me, man.
Listen, most people are not going to believe I'm going to say this, but I agree with you on that. I feel the same way. I feel that Keith Thurman and Errol Spence is a great fight for boxing fans.
Absolutely.
I see Errol Spence's point of view, but I don't agree with it. I understand his point of view, but I don't agree with it. I see that,
I just don't know why it's so personal, man. It's like he hates Thurman. Like,
I
never saw why it was that serious, man, to where you would be like, I'm just not gonna ever fight you. He's talking about if Thurman gets a belt, then instead of unifying and becoming undisputed, he'll just move to 154. Man, that's some whole shit, man.
Yeah. Listen. As a boxing fan, brother, I agree with you 100%. But this is what I'm gonna say, and I'm glad that I'm on this platform and this channel to say that. If you feel like that's some whole shit, then we gotta hold Buck Crawford to the same standard. We got to hold him
Why is that?
because Bud fucking flip flop. Because Bud came out and said that he passed the Spence fight. You know, and the fight ain't happening, and all this other shit he was saying as well. You know, so it's the same thing because see, at least with the Keith Thurman situation and Errol Spence, these motherfuckers are both on the same platform, PBC. There's no Aram
Yeah,
in the
so it should
way.
be no excuse why that
Right.
fight shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen. That's my point. That's my exact point
Bud
right there.
was in
So
his feelings too. Bud got in his feelings.
yeah,
You know
and
what I'm saying?
that's the one thing I don't
But
like about these new
I think
fighters is
I
that they
think
get in
Bud,
their feelings too much in this
I
business.
think Bud got a little bit more merit to be in his feelings though. You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
but he in his feelings with the wrong people though. That's my only issue with him. People think I don't like Bud, but the people he in his feelings with he in his feelings with the wrong people. It's like a person. It's like this. It's like a person who and this is why I don't respect Bud position on this. Bud is a person who is projecting his anger on the wrong people. Because
He's
Spence,
frustrated. What he said
right?
when he said that I'm not even worried about. I don't care about that fight anymore. He said that shit out of frustration.
Yeah, bro. You
It
gotta
was.
think.
I mean,
His
I
name
can
got
understand
trashed
where he's
ever
coming
since he started calling dude out.
Well, I think I actually feel like he said that out of arrogance more than frustration because
from.
he thought Manny Pacquiao was who he was fighting next. That's what he thought.
Ah,
He that's what
Well,
he thought.
he said that before that though, right? He was
No,
a he,
he never said that because you got to think right before that happened. He showed up at the Spence and Danny Garcia fight, right?
yeah.
So he didn't say that before that because that was him showing that he was interested in that fight. But
Yeah, but
once it meant
but what happened when he went there, man? They blocked him from going to the ring, man. And then
yeah.
Spence gets on. They interviewing Spence. I mean, Spence don't even acknowledge the dude is there. Then they ask him about Crawford. He's talking about well, well, well. Why Crawford come to my fight? I
well,
wouldn't come to his fight. Like it's just some hope.
and
I be like,
right
Spence
and I
sometimes, man.
listen and I understand that and I feel like a lot of that shit is whole shit, but you gotta look back at the history of all that because him and Bud was having words in the media because
Right?
you gotta remember Bud said that he had a little ass career on Miss Boxing Baby channel and he don't need him and he could go to the Hall of Fame and all of that. And then Spence in his media workout with Danny Garcia said that Bud Crawford's biggest fight was against Bob Arum with everything that was going on and all that. And they was shooting shots back and forth. And Bud said, I don't need him. So he said, listen, I'm gonna make the dude stand on his words. If he don't need me, then what the fuck you doing here? See, it's like you can't say one thing and then your actions do another, and then somebody call you
Hey,
out on
your
your
mic kind of
actions.
breaking up, bro.
Okay, I'm just saying you can't do one thing and then say and then your actions say another thing. Now I know Bud is a warrior because I'm not one of these guys who's going to say Bud is ducking smoke. I don't believe that at all. But what I do believe is that Bud made certain decisions business wise that no one can judge because we're not in his shoes. But you have to lay in the bed that you make. And if you've watched people in the past deal with the same promoter that you've dealt with, who've got everyone who's gotten to this point of being a superstar and bigger than what Bob Arum wants them to be, then they all go into these type of situations. And Bud Crawford got the worst. He got the worst end of it all because the plan that Bob Arum had for Bud Crawford was a bad plan. He put him on his first pay-per-view against Postal when PBC was putting fights like Thurman and Porter on free TV.
That was a mistake.
It
Yeah, they
was a
should have
huge
done that.
mistake. So when it did 50,000, it didn't have shit to do with Bud ain't no
the
draw.
the reason why they did that, it was stupid, but the reason why they did that shit was because they was trying to get both of them dudes paid. It wasn't enough money. I think was that before the ESPN deal?
Yeah, it was
Or
before.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
definitely before the
they were
ESPN.
yeah.
they were trying to get Crawford and Postile paid because the money wasn't really there. So they just threw the shit on pay-per-view. So they both could
Well, I
they
think it was. I
coincided.
think it was a little
But it
bit more.
was a mistake in the long run.
Yeah, well, I think it was a little bit more than that. Me personally, I think that Bob Arum doesn't do things in the best interest of his clients. He do things in the best interest of him. And what he was doing was battling against what Bob Arum was doing. This was a time when what Al Heyman was doing. This was a time where he was saying that Heyman was playing his fighters too much and this, that, and the other. And when you're you got to remember this. When you're an old dog, it's hard to learn new tricks. You don't want to change. When you've dominated the sport and done things a certain way for such a long time, he wanted to keep doing it that way when it really wasn't that way anymore. Things were changing. So he still forced the shit on HBO pay-per-view. He still did it. And when it didn't work, then what Bob Arum does, because he's a devil, because that's what I believe Bob Arum to be, is a devil. What they do is they don't take responsibility. He puts the pressure on Bud Crawford the same way he did with the Khan pay-per-view. With the Khan pay-per-view, it's very simple to see what he did. If you watch and follow boxing, Amir Khan and Kell Brook were supposed to fight. That's what was going on with those guys. Amir Khan signed with Matchroom, with Eddie Hearn. Kell Brook was there as well. They were supposed to fight. They were negotiating this fight, and then Amir Khan had brought up something about a rehydration clause and all this shit, and then didn't take the fight. And the UK, who was salivating for this fight, they turned their back on Amir Khan. So when Amir Khan left those negotiations and came to Bud Crawford, the UK didn't back him on that fight. They didn't want to see that fight. They wanted to see him and Kell Brook. But because Arum didn't have any good opponents and Amir Khan was somewhat of a household name and a popular fighter, he tried to pay-per-view with that because ESPN was financing it. And it flopped because everyone know that Bud Crawford is better than Amir Khan. This is a top guy in the world at that time, fighting a guy with a fucking paper chin. So look at this. The reason why Errol Spence and Manny, go ahead.
But hold on. So are you saying that the reason why this fight didn't happen because Bud isn't a pay-per-view draw, but Sean Porter isn't either. Sean Porter was a guy who couldn't sell out a family diner, and yet he went right to an Errol Spence pay-per-view fight. So we can't really.
But here's the thing. Here's what you've missed, right? And the missed and with Bud Crawford, for the time he fought Amir Khan and fought Victor Postol, he's been fighting on ESPN. For the masses, the sports masses, to actually see him and become familiar with him, opposed to when he's fighting on HBO, when that's a premium channel that you have to pay a monthly subscription to even have HBO, and then on top of that, you have to be a sports fan or a boxing fan to even tune into him. So by putting this dude on ESPN and him going through the welterweight division the way he has by getting knockouts, now he's someone that people are interested in seeing. They know who he is. Opposed to how they had him before. And what you have to do with a person like that, see, like how they did with Errol Spence when he fought Bundu after the Olympics, and they did like $6 million, even though it's after the Olympics, they put him in that position, So it's like now you have Bud Crawford where he now has gotten a buzz from being so dominant on ESPN and knocking people out. And then he has this buzz now by being linked to Errol Spence, because it's like Mayweather Pacquiao. It's like you can't, but it's the same thing. You got to think. And Bob Arum has fooled the masses, which it makes me sad to see that people are this stupid and gullible, but it is what it is. Bob Arum has done the same thing with Bud Crawford to Errol Spence that he did with Manny Pacquiao to Floyd Mayweather. He has linked one to the other, and then he has sold to the public that the other one who's in a better position is scared of the other one. This is the same thing.
Let me ask y'all this, man. Hey, well, I'm asking Terrell because I know what you're gonna say for me. If Porter doesn't take this fight, man, with Crawford, I mean, do you consider that shit a duck? If they somehow back out of this ordered fight?
I don't think this Porter fight. I really don't believe the Porter fight's gonna happen. I said this before. I don't think it's happening. And the reason I don't think it's happening is, first of all, Al Heyman had Sean Porter take his tweet. He had to erase his tweet, delete his tweet on it, bro. Secondly, Bud Crawford is in his last fight with Top Rank, basically. Al Heyman has been waiting for you. Think Al Heyman's going to throw a fucking lifeline to them and make this fight happen? They're not going to do it. It's not gonna happen, bro. And it got nothing to do with one person being scared of the other, man. This shit is chess. And what happens is we have boxing fans, right? Just like fans. My mentor told me the word fan is short for the word fanatic.
What do you mean by throw Crawford a life?
It ain't really Crawford. It's not Crawford. It ain't really Crawford a lifeline. It's Arum a lifeline. The battle is between the kings. The fighters are the pawns. The kings is the money men, Aram and Heyman. Both of these motherfuckers went to Harvard. One is black, one is white, one is sued the other one is slandered the other one's name. The other one has been kicking his ass and had had Mayweather and waited out Mayweather Pacquiao and became the A side and then won. This is a long history. But for us boxing
Okay,
fans,
so if Porter doesn't take this fight, you giving him a pass. What about you, Terrell Bushido? You get Porter paid fight, man.
Man, I kind of agree with loyal to the game, bro. I agree to a degree with him. I have a feeling that it may not happen because
it ain't on Porter. It's on his.
If Porter don't take this fight, I'm gonna fry his ass.
I mean, but it's gonna look like Porter's gonna be ducked. Okay, it's gonna look like Porter ducked. Nobody's gonna care about this little thing with loyal to the game just said. Nobody's gonna care about none of that. They're gonna look at the fact that boy Porter just ducked the fight. And
if we use our heads, right, we can't say that it's going to look like Porter ducked because Porter authentically sent out a tweet saying, "I'm ready." His team told him to take it down. So we can't look at Porter and say Porter ducked. Porter was the one who wanted the fight initially. You know when I knew Porter wanted to fight? When he was on his podcast and he said when he goes in the gym and he's hitting the bag, the person he's thinking about is Terrence Crawford. That's an authentic quote of someone who actually wants a fight. I'm not going to say Porter is ducking him. See, but what happens is we have fans who go, well, why you care what promoters do, or why you do this, or why you the business. You just want to see the fight, and I get that. You do want to see the fight, but my thing is you can't blame the fighters for what's happening when the fighters don't pay themselves. We can't, like, for instance, if we're gonna say if a person can sit around and say Porter is ducking, right, then they have to carry the same energy with Bud Crawford for fighting the people he's fought. But we all know Bud Crawford.
No.
Yeah, but we all know Bud Crawford is hold on. We all know Bud Crawford is a fighter. He's not a matchmaker.
Bud Crawford and Spence fight is not being mandated by a sanction. Porter and Crawford is getting mandated. And if it goes to purse bid, the highest bidder is going to be the one paying. That could be PBC, that could be Triller, that could be ESPN, that could be, whoever. So it would be in Porter's best interest for him to take, the money of the highest bidder and get paid and get the fight for the belt. Like, I don't see.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you a question. Right? Is Porter an A fighter or a B fighter in your book? Both.
A fighter?
Is he? Would you consider him an A fighter or a B fighter?
You mean like his skill level?
Yeah, skill level.
Man, maybe like B minus.
Okay. Porter's a 2-time welterweight champion, right?
Right.
Porter's a 2-time welterweight champion because he did what Al Heyman told him to do, not because of his skills. See, when a person puts you in certain positions, you are beholden to that person, bro. Porter is not an A fighter. He's not a Crawford. He's not a Thurman. Even though Thurman lost to Pacquiao, he's not a Thurman. He's not a Spence. He's not a Mikey Garcia. And I'm not saying Mikey Garcia.
Porter in the position he is because he's sanctioned by every time he loses. They already have him ranked number one. He just lost. He's already ranked number one in the WBC. Already ranked number one in the WBA. So he's getting these title shots back to back to back to back. And it's the same thing. They're giving him the title shot for the WBO. So I don't see how him turning this down. If he turns this down, why, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense.
But, all right, but do you really think if the politics that we can't stand in boxing didn't exist, do you really think Porter himself, Sean Porter, son of Kenny Porter, do you really think he wants to turn down this fight?
As far as the politics,
minus the politics, I'm just saying Sean Porter himself. If there's no Al Heyman, there's no Bob Arum, do you actually think Sean Porter, based on everything that he's said and done to this point, do you think that he really just wants to turn down the fight?
Man, it's really hard for me to say just because Porter fought everybody, bro.
He don't want to turn this fight down. The only fight that Porter want to turn down is Boots, and he admitted it. When he saw Terrence Crawford fight David Benavidez, and he saw a little bit of vulnerability, he had called that out and said he wanted to fight Terrence Crawford back then. He wants to fight Terrence Crawford. But as you remember, even Kenny Porter, this ain't even Sean Porter saying this. Kenny Porter said he had to get authorization from Al Heyman first before he even met with Top Rank the first go around.
Yeah, he did say that.
He said that, and that's what it is. And that's all it, and bro. That's all it ever is with these fighters. But people don't, the fans want to see the best fight the best, which is fair and which is the position fans should be in. But there's a lot of politics. You got to remember, this is not the NBA where there's two rankings and you go into the playoffs and the number 1 seed plays the number 8 seed, or this is not the UFC where one has to face two because it's an organization. This is a sport that has all these different moving pieces. You have managers, you have promoters, you have sanctioning bodies, but nothing's under the same umbrella. It's all a bunch of moving pieces in a sport, which is the actual problem. It ain't the fighters. These guys fought for free as amateurs. They love what they do. This is just the truth. They love what they do. They fought for free as amateurs. So I'm not going to sit up and say Sean Porter is scared of Terrence Crawford. The same way I'm not going to sit up because I'm a heavy Spence guy. I'm going to say Buck Crawford is scared of Errol Spence. Where I'm not going to sit up and say Errol Spence is scared of Terrence Crawford. But what I will say, which got me on the show, was fucking Keith Thurman was scared of Errol Spence. And he out here fucking talking. Okay? And the only thing that has Keith Thurman talking right now, just like Danny Garcia, and because let's not act like we are oblivious to the story of Errol Spence. Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, and Sean Porter were all straight ducking Errol Spence. He's not on my radar. That's what they were doing. Now, once Errol Spence, let's be honest, and it was also, I'm also going to say Terrence Crawford, because when Terrence Crawford first came into 147 pounds, no one was saying throw him in there with the biggest, strongest welterweight in the division, which was Errol Spence, because that would have been stupid, him moving up and doing that. No one was saying that.
But he went up and fought the guy that beat Pacquiao, though.
Yeah, but that guy,
who just so happens
but let's be honest,
like
right? Jeff Horn is not even better than Mean Machine. Let's just be honest about that. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my bad, man. Damn, phone died. Let me finish that point I was making, man. I was saying I don't see the downside of Porter facing Crawford. I don't see any downside. He's going to get the opportunity to be champion again. This is Terrence Crawford's last fight. So say if Crawford wins, Crawford has the belt, then Crawford can, leave and join the PBC. If Porter wins, Porter has the title. You know what I'm saying? The only downside is if they don't have confidence in Porter. If they're not confident that they think they can win, then that's the only way I would see them ducking out of this fight.
Well, actually, there is some downside. See, because what I'm hearing, I don't know if it's true, but what I'm hearing is that Bud Crawford owes Top Rank another fight. So,
according to what Red said, he said it was either one fight or the contract is up in November or something like that. That's what he said.
Right. But you got to remember, the one fight that Red's talking about against Zepeda is a Top Rank fight. It's not a PBC fight. So if they go in a purse bid and PBC wins a purse bid, and this is a PBC production, right? Because we know these boxing contracts got all kind of slick shit in them. He's probably still gonna owe Bob Arum another fight under Top Rank. His contract was written with Top Rank and ESPN, not with PBC. So that's a one-off, him fighting on the PBC platform. So he's going to owe ESPN another fight. That's who his contract's with. So if he's fighting on PBC, which will be on Fox against Sean Porter in the purse bid, which ain't going to be on no ESPN, he owes ESPN another fight. So why are they going to hand over Sean Porter as a placeholder for that, right? And then they still owe ESPN another fight. So he goes.
The fight will be on the PBC platform on pay-per-view. This will be a big fight for Fox.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
but
see why they
Yeah, it
would.
would.
yeah, but it's not. But think about it. But it's not.
Even if Crawford has to go back to ESPN
All right,
and
but let me
he
ask.
knocked that fight out the way, and then
Let
he
me ask
come
you a
back.
question. So let me ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you a question, right? So if Sean Porter fight, if Sean Porter fights, say he don't, if Buck Crawford doesn't fight a Porter next, and he fights Zepeda, which no one really wants to see that, but he gets rid of his contract. He gets rid of his contract with Bob Arum, and Errol Spence wins his fight with Manny Pacquiao. Then wouldn't that be better for uh PBC and Al Heyman to try to make the fight because now they get to keep all the pay-per-view money
I
with
mean, yeah,
between so
yeah.
why would they prolong it by coming in giving you Porter and then Bud having to go back to Bob after October maybe for another 6 months going into 2020
Hell no.
2022, right? And then
But but who's to say the WBO is going to be all for all this maneuvering Heyman and Porter's trying to do?
the
Who's to say they're
WBO,
going to keep?
they've showed
Who's
you,
to say
but the
they're going to?
WBO just showed you that. The WBO had Porter number one. They have Virgil Ortiz
Yeah, because they
number
want
two,
that
who
fight.
went to number one.
They want
And
Porter and Crawford fight now, man. If Porter ducks out this fight, who's to say they don't just make somebody else on ESPN the next mandatory? So now they're in another pickle because if Crawford would have to he'd be mandated to fight a ESPN fighter, and then Bob.
that's what Heyman's gonna have him do because then he'll be free, bro. Let me ask you. This is what you have to remember about this because it's good that we're in the present, but I want you to think about this, right? The biggest fight financially in the history of boxing was a joint promotion between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. The hugest monetary fight was a joint promotion, pay-per-view.
Right.
And what happened after that fight happened? Bob Arum sued Al Heyman. He sued him. Directly after that fight, he sued him for $100 million. So
Okay.
why would Al Heyman try to do that again, get into another joint venture with this man again when all he has to do is say, Sean Porter, don't fight him. Let Bob Arum find some bullshit ass opponent for Bud to fight, and then Bud will be a free agent. And then I can go talk to Crawford and Spence, and then we can keep all the money instead of me having to deal with this guy again and go through the same thing again.
People get sued every day, man. Corporations sue other corporations. That's just a part of business. It's not meant to
That's
be.
true. But he's not.
I
But
mean,
he's not a corporation. PBC's a corporation. Al Heyman's not a corporation. He's a person, right? And you're suing him based on the Ali Act. You're personally suing him. And I like how people. It's so funny when I hear black people just downplay that and say, "Oh, people sue people every day," but a lot of motherfuckers ain't talking to their best friend or their mom or their brother over $5 or
sorry.
$10 that they loaned them, and they ain't get back. So this man who got sued for $100 million is just supposed to say, "You know what? I'm gonna go and jump into another joint promotion with the same person and set myself up for that again because the fans want to fight." Or I could just wait for
It's
this
not
guy.
damn right because the fans want to fight, man. Boxing is going to be in a bad place if these promoters and companies can't work together, man. Okay, no, people get sued. Like, that's part of business, man. And it's not. I mean, I hear your point about, as a black person, I should look at it differently. But I mean, that shouldn't stop these fights from happening, man. This
I,
whole side of the street shit needs to end, man.
I,
It's smoke and mirrors, bro. All these fights can be made.
I
All of
feel
it.
I feel you, but a lot
Just
of
make a
things.
deal. You have to sit down with you're gonna have to sit down with your enemy in business, man.
Listen, I feel you, but if you don't have to, why would you? There's only one more fight left on the table. Like, why would you? There's one fight. There's not. Crawford doesn't. Crawford's already pissed off. Bob Arum has already done what he's done in the public. Al Heyman's not shitting on Bud Crawford to the media. Errol Spence ain't shitting on Bud Crawford to the media. You don't even hear Al Heyman say anything. It's his own promoter who's already done the things that he did because he is who he is. So why are you gonna right now when he's already laid the bed for this guy to leave, and his people already come out like Red is saying that we're gonna leave after the next fight. Why are you throwing a lifeline in there? Why would you throw a lifeline in there with Sean Porter and prolong this shit when you could just have him go fight Zepeda and get the fuck out of there, and then we could get the fights, all the fights made. You're gonna see that's what people. This is what I always say, right? People a lot of times are playing checkers, not chess. They looking at the one move where you just jump diagonal and jump over the guy for right now instead of looking 2 or 3 moves ahead. 2 or 3 moves ahead. If you really looking, why am I going to go ahead and do this joint promotion, and then I got to pay I got to pay Terrence Crawford and Top Rank 60%. I'm gonna finance this. I'm gonna put my guy out there who's probably gonna lose, which we just being real with Porter losing to Crawford. So I'm gonna finance a fucking loss, get him 60% of everything, and then allow him to then go into an additional 6 months for him to finish out his contract. When I could just say, nah, fuck that. You find him another bum ass motherfucker to fight, and then once he sees that you can't do anything for him, then I can step in and we can get all the fights that we want popping with Terrence Crawford. Why would you do something else? It don't make sense. And if it was you and your money, you wouldn't do that. But you're a fan, so you just want to see the fight. But if it was you who had a business,
I would do whatever's in the best interest of my fighter, man.
Right, and that ain't in the best interest of your fighter.
Champion, which is becoming champion.
Listen, he can become champion. So do you think Terrence Crawford's going to lose his belt to Zepeda if he fights Zepeda? No. So he's still going to become champion one fight later. And then I could also have Terrence Crawford in my stable and match him against Errol Spence, match him against Keith Thurman, match him against whoever else I want, and keep all the money and not have to split it. And not have to worry about someone coming behind me and suing me.
All that can still happen though.
Yeah, but it'll be prolonged. You could do it. You see.
That's what already been prolonged. They already prolonging everything.
So what's one more fight then? If it's already been prolonged, what's one more fight?
Exactly. That's my point. What's one more fight?
Right, but if you do it this way, then you got to wait for Terrence Crawford longer. Because then he got to finish out his contract.
It just to me, man, it just says that he has absolutely no confidence in his fighter, man.
That's not his job. Is it to have confidence in Sean Porter? Because if I can have Terrence Crawford signed to me, I don't need confidence in Porter.
The promoter's job is to get your fighter the best fight.
He's not a promoter, bro. He's a manager. It's a difference. His job is to do the best for his client, what's in the best interest for his client. And that's
manager, advisor, whatever. Yeah. His job is to put Sean Porter in title fights, man. All this little maneuvering, man, like that.
His job is to put Sean Porter in the best position in his career, not in a title fight.
This fight right here happening this year is the best position that Sean Porter can get in.
Yep.
But what's he gonna do, man? Well, if he backs out of this fight, what's he gonna do?
Listen.
Hey,
let me ask you a question.
How many opportunities is Sean Porter going to get?
Sean Porter has been getting opportunities with Al Heyman for a long time. This guy, like we just said, is a B-class fighter who's been a 2-time champion. So we can't talk about how many opportunities he's going to get. I mean, he's already done something that Terrence Crawford hasn't done and hasn't had to do, which is become a 2-time champion at 147. So, and this is a guy who doesn't have Terrence Crawford's skill set. That's what I'm saying. So when you're saying when you're representing a client, your job is to do what's best for your client. Sean Porter is likely going to lose.
A couple of months ago, man, people were talking like Bud was ducking Porter. There's no way people were screaming for this fight. People were screaming for this fight. Now, who's to say if Porter backs out this fight? Bud might say, okay, well, fuck them. They don't want to fight. Fuck them. I'm going to fight Zepeda, and I'm just going to wait for Taylor to come up. I'm going to fight the undisputed.
But that's on him, and that would be stupid because you know why that's stupid? Because you just went through all of these years of not getting the shit you want. He doesn't want Taylor. What the fuck does beating Josh Taylor do for his career?
I hear what you're saying, but I'm speaking from Bud's perspective. He probably feels like he done already did everything he could do in this. He don't need Porter. He don't. He. That's how he talking. Like he don't need none of them.
You know,
So they have Crawford in the position where Crawford is forced to fight Porter. There's no way Crawford can back out of this fight unless he drops his title, and they're about to give up that position.
well,
That's how I see it.
there's a lot of stuff on the flip side because I'm glad you brought that up as well. So on the flip side of what we were just talking about, we also have to look at we underestimate the devil a lot of times. See, because it's Aram who's put him in that position. And if you read the quote that Aram said, he didn't say that Terrence Crawford has to beat Sean Porter to keep his title. He says he needs to fight this next fight to keep his title. Aram is the one who put Porter in that position. He could know that this fight is not going to happen. He's trying to strip him because Bud's leaving. So there's a whole this is what I'm saying. A lot of times, that's what I'm talking about playing chess and not checkers. We
Wait,
all setting up.
you said Aaron put Porter in this position?
And the WBO #1. We all know that Aram is the guy who controls the WBO. Porter was number one. We know it's called the What Bob Orders organization. We all know that. So let's not act crazy. Like Porter was number one, and then Virgil Ortiz was number one, and they couldn't get. See, and that's what's really funky about that fight, right?
The B stands for Bob.
Right. But think about this. That's what's real funky about this fight, though, because I want you to think about this. The fight with Porter didn't manifest, right? And when it didn't manifest, here's what I want you guys to remember, because this isn't me saying it like being some hater. These are all facts. Bob Arum said, based on what has happened with Terrence Crawford in the past, ESPN, first he said it wasn't a big fight. He said the fight with Errol Spence is the big fight. And then when it didn't happen, he said that ESPN didn't want to put the money up because they lost too much money on Porter, and that wasn't a big enough fight for them to recoup their money. So then Porter falls out the WBO #1, and then Virgil Ortiz becomes #1. Notice how the WBO did not mandate Virgil Ortiz in that fight to happen for Bud to keep his belt. There was no talking. There was no talking. We didn't hear anything about negotiations like we always hear. Anytime Bob is involved with BBC, there's a bunch of talking in the public.
Didn't want that fight.
Yeah, but the point is
that's a De La Hoya guy, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking you on that. But notice how we didn't hear nothing about any negotiations about it. We didn't hear nothing about that. It was even when he became #1, we never heard that they were negotiating. We heard nothing about that. And then we didn't even hear.
Ortiz ain't trying to fight Crawford, man.
But even if Sean Porter right now is not trying to fight Terrence Crawford, we still hearing about it in the public from Bob. We ain't hear about Virgil Ortiz.
Because they fucking mandated the shit, man.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question. Why didn't they mandate it with Virgil Ortiz then?
Because Virgil Ortiz did not want to fight. He went and made a fight with.
But what does it have to do? But what does it have to do with what somebody wants? Why didn't they mandate it? Because the pressure isn't on the person who is that they're mandated. The pressure is on Bud to keep his title based on the fight being mandated. So if people already know that PBC and Top Rank don't really do business at all, right? Why do you have a guy #1 moving from #1, put somebody else #1? We hear nothing about that. Then we move him out of there, and then we mandate a guy that we put back at #1. Y'all, this shit is fishy as fuck. It's so easy to think about
but for me, Deontay Wilder's situation with Tyson Fury kind of debunks this whole little myth. I mean, they still dealing with Tyson Fury even though he's with Top Rank. You know why? Because Wilder wants that fight. You know what I'm saying? So
actually, but you're leaving out a very important part. There's a signed rematch clause in the contract. There is none in this side, so that's the difference, and that's a huge difference because and just to go to show you again where the manipulation is again with Arum in this situation. There was a signed rematch clause after Tyson Fury. Wilder won. There was a rematch clause. They found a way to get Tyson Fury 2 or 3 bum-ass fights in between those fights in order to make those fights. There was nothing ordered or mandated or anything like that. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. See, this is the issue with boxing, where we go back and forth and we hate each other over who's not fighting, who we like, who's a fanboy of a promotion team or a fanboy of a fighter. but there's so much shit that isn't organized in boxing for anything to be absolute indefinite
I
at
hear
all.
you, man.
Yeah,
I
you
hear
right.
you. All I'm saying is, you have to seize opportunities, man. If you get a shot, they have Crawford locked in to a fight where he has to fight Porter. I mean, you don't know what's gonna fucking happen. All this planning and maneuvering, plans don't always work out, man. Spence got into a fucking car accident. He
Facts.
almost didn't make it back.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
when you had the opportunity, when the shit is popping, when the shit is hot, when the fight, like fans were screaming for this fight, and it's going to be a horrible look if they pull out of this fight or purse bid or whatever happens.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? They need to make this fight this year.
And I agree with you, but you know another thing about fans, why people do what they do in boxing is because even if the fight don't happen now and Bud fights Zepeda, and then the fight with Bud and Porter happens right after that, the fans are going to be just as excited. They're going to be just as excited.
Who's Porter gonna fight, man? If he don't,
Right. Like, who
if he don't
Porter
fight
gonna
Crawford?
fight, bro?
I don't know. I don't know. But again, if you just look at what has happened in the past, right? Even with Peter Quillen, when Al Heyman told Peter Quillen to drop a belt and to put him in a better situation. These are the things that are done. This has nothing to do with Peter Quillen ducking someone or
That
not
was
wanting
a
to
duck,
fight
though,
that
for the
person.
record. That was a duck.
Well, it's you know why it's a duck? Because it's not you. See, so where someone's telling you that if you go fight this person, you're gonna make $1 million. But if you drop the belt and you go and I'll put you in this position, and then between these positions I put you in, you'll make $6 million. You know what you're gonna say when you hear someone like yourself or myself on this platform saying that you ducked a person? You're gonna say, fuck that person. I'm making $6 million.
Well, go tell that to Jamel and Jamal Charlo, so they can stop crying about Demetrius Andrade and get that fight popping.
Yeah, I agree
That
with
shit
you.
was like 10 years ago, man. They still not letting that go.
I
And
agree.
it's
Right.
I agree with you on that.
situation that you're talking about, where this motor Jay-Z or whatever told him, don't take that fight. I think
Right.
it was like $300K or something. If you wait, we get more money on it. You know what I'm saying? Same situation.
Yeah.
But
That's because that's not the real reason they ain't fighting.
Yeah, I whoever that is, I agree with that. That's because Andrade would beat both of those Charlo brothers.
I ain't even saying that, man. If you listen to what they say,
really, think so?
if you listen to them, they tell you multiple reasons, and then they'll go back to that because he pulled out of that fight. So to me,
Yeah.
and I've said that many times. Like, what's the real reason? Is it because he pulled out of the fight, or is it because he's boring, or is it because he hadn't fought anybody?
There is no legitimate reason to why these motherfuckers took the fight, bro. That shit was so long ago, man. It's like, come on, dog. Stop the damn shit.
I agree.
Get this shit popping, man.
I agree. But you know what? I said this before. I feel like the PBC fighters, they on some weird hip hop shit to me. It's like they done took some type of oath and they follow what Al tell them to do, and they don't go outside of that, and it sucks, But that's what I see.
And that's why I appreciate loyal to the game's honesty here, because that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's just like what Floyd said. Everyone gets mad at Tank. It ain't Tank who said we ain't fighting. We ain't trying to make someone else's company great. Floyd said that. That's their motto. That's the PBC motto.
Lloyd also said he boys were overpaid, and that was the problem. That's what wrong. Why they weren't fighting anybody. Why they weren't staying busy.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
You definitely said that.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah. GK Black said Quillen career went nowhere after the bout. You correct, because the part that people miss out with Al making those plans is you still got to win. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even if he put you in these positions, then you still got to win these fights. You know what I'm saying? And you're 100% right about that.
Salute to my man Drizzy KO. He says, listen to Derek James interviews when they talk Spence versus Crawford. He don't want no smoke. Hey, same thing for Jamal Charlo. When you listen to
Ronnie Shields,
when you listen to Ronnie Shields talk about Benavidez or Andrade, listen, he all of a sudden becomes a matchmaker. Yep. Yep. No smoke. I want to speak on that Crawford Porter thing right quick. Okay.
Yo, what I'm trying to say.
This is my man D-Lo 404 Boxer. Y'all go subscribe to my man D-Lo 404 who's about to speak.
Salute.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
seen
that.
you
Hey,
around.
what I want to say on that, man, is it's multiple facets to it. So I would say it's twofold, but it's beyond that, right? For one, you got to fight, and not only for Crawford, but for Porter as well, that the fans have been saying they want to see. They said they wanted to see the Brook fight. They got the fight. Then everybody said they didn't want to see it. So, at the same time, they were saying they wanted the Porter fight or Brook. So he beat Brook. Porter's name come back up, and now they got interested. People got interested in it, and then all of a sudden, when it wasn't gaining traction, it was Bud hiding behind Bob. So now I'm hearing that Bob has put this in place to make Bud have to put it in Porter in a position to where he's the mandatory or Bud gets stripped. To me, that doesn't make a whole bunch of business sense for Bob, because if that's the case, if Bud were to get stripped, Porter would be the guy up for the belt. He'd get the fight. Probably wouldn't even be somebody of Virgil Ortiz's caliber for that title. So that wouldn't really make sense for Bob to do that. I can understand if there was a top ranked fighter that they were saying that were going to be mandated, but for it to be a PBC fighter, it really doesn't make sense.
If you look at the 147 WBO rankings, man, I think it's only like one person that's top ranked in the top 10. Maybe two.
Right, I get it. But in the same time, when it comes to Ortiz, as soon as Ortiz won, now to me, Ortiz made sense to get moved up over Porter. Porter was coming off a loss versus Spence. The only thing he done was beat Formella.
Right.
And you got Ortiz winning for the former champion, albeit at a lower weight class, and winning one. That was a better win than Spence's win over Formella. And then Formella going and losing to Conor Ben in the next fight doesn't help that case either. So to me, it made sense. I'm one of those people, and I think I heard somebody mention it, that I see Porter always hovering around the top of the ranking, and I feel like he doesn't drop down far enough when he loses these titles or when he loses the top shot.
His fights be close though. That's why.
I get it. I get it. But my point is, at some point you got to let these other guys get a shot. Guys like Porter is not going to allow himself to be a stepping stone or a launching pad for a Boots Ennis, a Virgil Ortiz, a Conor Ben, any of those guys. Regardless of what Al tells them to do. People say, oh, they do what Al said. I guarantee if Al were to tell him he wants him to fight Boots, you'll hear Porter talk about he's thinking about being a full-time commentator.
Facts.
A
podcast.
Facts.
It's not always what Al says, you know what I'm saying? They take what Al says on the advisement, and I do think Al is behind him pulling down that post, or not necessarily Al, but somebody at PBC.
Right.
And I feel like, and I watched the interview, I don't really like to speak on what I saw on other people's channels, so I don't say no names. But I actually saw an interview with a fighter who basically said that Al is, more about, they're all about what PBC can do right there. They're not really worried about what's going on outside.
Birdo.
If you want to be in the clique, and he was actually saying he's tight with Bud, and he told Bud basically you need to get in the clique.
Facts.
And but the other thing that was said from Porter was that he had to basically he had to make some apologies, because he kind of basically he did some things out of order. And a lot of people took it that he was talking about apologizing to Bud, which I do think he meant he was going to apologize to Bud because they had an agreement on how they were going to approach trying to make their fight, and Porter kind of started talking about it in public. But at the same time, I felt like he pretty much was saying he owed Al a phone call.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Because he went and done things against the PBC weight.
Facts.
And he was told to stop talking about Bud Crawford.
Facts.
And then as soon as when he made that post in a knee-jerk reaction, what's the first thing that happened? He pulled it back down.
Facts. See, this man see what it is.
So I understand, I understand the whole thing about not building somebody else's company. I understand all of the brand loyalty and being loyal with who got you there. But that goes both ways. Bud gets hella criticism for his loyalty to Top Rank. And I understand people feel like Bob says this and Bob says that, but we don't know what's in that man's contract. A lot of people have never act like they never heard of an NDA. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So
Yep.
sometimes in contracts, that stuff is one sided. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? It's like, hey, we gonna give you all of this, but this is what we require from you. So we can talk. You know, it's like our employers. They can go into a boardroom and talk down on us, but we can't. Our voice isn't as loud, or if we say certain things, we jeopardize our job.
Yep.
So I don't know that that's the case, but I try not to. Oh, yeah, I try not to look too much into Bud not treat Bob like he's just some dude on the street. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it like I know the guy is supposed to be near the end of his contract. So I look at it like you're willing to take a little bit of stuff to get to the end of your contract.
Right.
So if his contract is almost over and he gets to the end of it, I'm pretty sure that he's probably gonna be singing a whole different tune, or either he's just gonna be relieved to be done with it. But I don't expect him to just turn on Bob Arum because Bob's talking crazy. Because we got to remember, while we say that, you know, a guy like Porter owes a debt of gratitude to Al Heyman, Porter came into the game as a known fighter who had a little bit of buzz around him, and he was kind of being built from day one. Bud was kind of like a B-side fighter, and I don't mean like A-side, B-side.
Yeah,
I mean like B-side of the tape.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if it was a demo tape, Bud was on the B-side
Right.
with the throwaway artist. You know what I'm saying? And he was put in situations that weren't favorable, and he happened to win. And then he kept winning. And then he suddenly, you know, he basically had to earn his keep. He wasn't a blue chip guy that top rank or anybody else was going after. So I can understand why a guy who came up that way is going to have a certain amount of loyalty to who got it, who helped get him there.
Now, D-Lo,
Go ahead.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100% of what you're saying. And my only thing with Bud Crawford, from the perspective of where you coming from, is if he has the mental wherewithal to not speak that way to Bob Arum and have that, then my thing is, then why do you and your team talk that way towards Spence's team then?
Those are his peers. He's not talking like that about Al.
Right, but what I'm saying is, just been, I'm saying what now. Notice what I said was Bud and his team, because his team don't say shit that he don't sanction, and if they say shit that he hasn't sanctioned, I'm pretty sure he checks them. Like when his sister had came out at Bob on Twitter when he had talked shit about Bud, and then she stopped. So my thing is, when you hear Bernie coming on here talking about Spence and Derek James are punk motherfuckers, and you hear all this other stuff from Bomac saying fuck PBC and Al Heyman and all that stuff, that is my only gripe with those guys. See, because
you hear how people talk about Bomac and about his ways.
Yeah, but you don't. But the
Bomac
thing is,
everybody.
I hear that, but that's the public, because we don't hear Derek James or Errol Spence or his boy Jordan or nobody from his people talk about those guys like that. So my only issue, that's my only issue is because one of the things I notice is that a lot of times when you can't project your anger in the direction that you really want to, especially when it's against a person who's a non-melanated person, we sure like to put it on the melanated people that we shouldn't. And I don't have a problem with those guys having to build up to a fight or whatever, but I think some of the things that have been said are personal, that aren't boxing related, you know. And I feel like if you could bite your tongue and show respect for a guy who is a known thief, and crook like Bob Arum, then I'm just saying, like, on the flip side, you should have the same respect for your peers, because I noticed that a lot of the times, and I'm not saying because Bud don't say too many things. Bud don't say too many. The stuff that Bud say normally has to do about fighting. He don't say too many other things. But what I'm saying is his team as a whole, and then even the whole movement of the people who back him up from a fan perspective, their stuff come from that same area of hate. It's just like you see right here. Max Stokes Evasion says fuck Spence. You know what I'm saying? It's like people don't be coming out and saying fuck Bud or whatever. Me, I'll say fuck Arum. I ain't gonna say fuck Bud because I know that Bud is a fighter and Bud don't make his matches. And I know Bud does his job because his job is to get in the ring and do his thing with whoever they put in there. That's what his job. And he do a great job when he get in the ring. So I'm not going to turn on Bud Crawford for what he's doing in the ring or who he's fighting or who he's not fighting. But what becomes hard sometimes though is when you hear all the negativity coming from that one side, then it's like you kind of fight fire with fire.
Hey, hold the thought. Salute to everybody in the building. Hit that like button for your boy. Salute to my man Damone Daniels. I see you in the building. Mark Brown, I see you. Wait, what did he say? Naveed Ali says Blue Bloods came out with a video title "Sam Porter backing out of the fight." I mean, is that a credible source he's getting his information from, or is he just saying things to get people to click on the video?
Right.
Blue Blood said Spence knocked Crawford out in sparring, man. You can't really.
That was for non. That was for non. Yeah,
that was for non.
That was for non.
I unsubscribed after that.
I'm tripping. My fault. You right.
That was for non. I unsubscribed when he did that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got, I know I'm not talking about any particular guy.
Blue Blood like them clicks, man.
But guys will put up titles and video, and then when somebody checks somebody, they, it's like, well, you got to look at the whole video. But my thing is, I mean, I can only control what I do. I'm not going to put some nonsense in the title, you know what I'm saying? Then when you click on the video, nowhere in the video can I substantiate what I do.
Right.
So that's why I said that you got to be careful with what you see in these titles is taking that and running with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because guys like Blue Blood have a huge influence. So a lot of people click on his shit and they see this stuff. Right. And they think his word is the gospel. They believe it. Right. They don't think they have to go do their own research because he's giving them the info. And when it's some misinformation like that, it's not good. I don't believe any of that right now about Porter backing out of the fight. I don't believe that right now until it happens.
Right. Honestly. I agree. I agree, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. And
me neither.
Like I said, I'm not gonna. Me just being a real one, I'm not going to blame Porter for it. I'm not because everything that I've seen authentically from Porter, just the fact that Porter put that tweet out and then it had to be deleted, that shows that the guy wants to fight. So I can't say, oh, I really don't believe Porter. I really believe Porter. Like Porter had heart when he put the tweet out, but then all of a sudden he started thinking. He said, "Nah, fuck it, I'm a duck." Nah, I've heard the same consistent story from Porter the whole time. But again, with the fans, and I understand that the fans want to see the best fight the best and see the best fights coming up next and all those things. But we have to remember that. See, if this was Dana White, right? If this was Dana White in the UFC, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. The fight would just be happening. But the problem with boxing is that it's not organized. It's too many moving parts. We've seen many times where the WB, for instance, people get mad when I bring this up with that or that want to go with the narrative of Porter ducking Bud or whatever. Well, what happened when the WBC ordered Timothy Bradley versus Errol Spence? That didn't happen. And when when people asked Timothy, it was ordered, and he retired. And guess what? When Timothy Bradley was asked about it, right? Because right before that, he was going on his rant about Bud and Spence and ducking and all this stuff. And then Errol Spence said the WBC mandated you to fight me and you retired. And then his response to the media was, I fought Manny Pacquiao. Why would I fight you? And when did we ever do business with PBC? So it's like he came out and admit to saying, so at one point he's saying that Spence is ducking, there's no size of the street. And then when it comes to him and they ask about it, then he says, when we ever did business with PBC. So it's which way, bro, which way, he contradicted himself. So it's like, which one is it? I mean, we can all look this up. It's not shit I'm making up. This is stuff that's out there and easy to find. You know what I'm saying? So which one is it? When these sanctioning bodies order fights, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It don't mean the fight's going to happen. And we can say, okay, well, why Al Heyman doing this, right? And then I could play devil's advocate and say, well, why Bob Arum did that when it was PBC, when it was on the flip side with Timothy Bradley, because at that time Errol Spence was coming up and he was looking for names and he would have fought Timothy Bradley. And
Well, I
most
mean,
likely they would
if
have.
you retired, man, what can you do? He retired. Shit.
I mean, I hear you, but it wasn't like that.
I mean, that's a duck. You know what I mean?
But what I'm saying is that wasn't his response. I can only go off what he said because he in the situation. He said, "I fought Manny Pacquiao, and since when did we do business with PBC?" So he ain't say nothing about retiring, even though he did retire. That's what he said. So that's what I'm saying. We can't say for Porter, oh, because we're pro Bud or we want to see the fight or whatever. If it happens this time and it's Porter, it's because Porter's ducking. There's a history. I mean, and that's fair. If that's what you want to believe, that's cool. But I'm just saying, there's a history of this happening in the past, and it happens, and it only happens when for who it benefits the most and who's in power, and it
It's a
benefits the
history,
most.
and every time it happened, them motherfuckers got called ducks. It's
Right.
not gonna be.
But
It's
think
not gonna
about
be
it.
different
With the
before.
think about it though. With the WBC back then, right at 147, Top Rank and what's this guy Bob Arum? They only ever had really the WBO. So they weren't the ones in power at that time. Now, when you look at it this go around, it's the WBO doing it. See, so it's all about who is more favorable for at that time. And if it ain't, and then Bob Arum had also did another video with Barbershop Conversations when he tried to leak out about the Manny Pacquiao and Crawford fight. And no, it wasn't that one. It was an interview before that because I listen to all this stuff. And he said they asked him, "Would you make a fight with a fighter if you believe that your fighter is going to lose?" He said, "No." He said, "The only way I'm going to make a fight with my fighter, if I believe that he's going to lose the fight, is there has to be a lot of money involved." That's what this is out of Bob Arum mouth. His own mouth. He said, "My fighter, if I believe he's has a big chance of losing a fight, there has to be a lot of money." So basically, he's selling his fighter for the win for the in the loss for money. So whoever side that it is, that's what they're gonna do. Whoever has the most power, that's what they're gonna do. And
fighter too.
Right, and the fans, instead of being mad at the game or the players, they need to be mad at the game. The game is fucked up. The boxing is fucked. That's what I hear people say.
Now, to change lanes real quick, because I ain't got too much time left. What are you guys' thoughts? Because I talked about it early on the live, but what are you guys' thoughts on Canelo Alvarez, Caleh Plant, Bivol, etc.?
I think if he's going to fight, I just speak on Bivol first because that's where it's looking like it's going, or that's where most of the traction is right now. My thoughts on it is, regardless of Bivol fan, he'll come down to 168. My only issue is if they fight, I don't know what all kind of other stipulations might go in there, but I definitely don't want it to be at anything below 175 because Canelo already fought at 175 with no issues versus shot worn, twice knocked out, over the hill, Kovalev. So it shouldn't be no issue for him going up to 175 to fight Bivol. That's my thoughts on that.
Okay.
As far as the Plant situation, I think that I am. There's multiple things I think about it, but I'll just say I halfway feel like Canelo was just leveraging negotiations for that fight to get more money for the Bivol fight, to be able to demand more from Matchroom, because we've already seen that, not Matchroom, the Zone, because we've already seen Canelo and the Zone go back and forth about money and who they see as top tier opponents or premier opponents that are worth a certain amount of money. So I feel like these very public negotiations with Plant basically give him bargaining power with the Zone to say, well, you see what they're willing to give me. If you want me to not fight for Undisputed, come fight on your network versus a DAZN guy. This is what it's gonna take. That's really my thoughts on it. I don't feel like there was
Can I go next?
there's an honest effort for Canelo to make that fight because I feel like the demands. Now that's granted if Plant told the truth, and they didn't refute anything Plant said. If Plant told the truth, it just to me seemed like Canelo. That's not the fight he want right now. Not because I don't think he thinks he can win. It's just that I think that he don't. For one, I don't think he really wants to fight on PBC right now for whatever reason. But I
See,
also
these so-called journalists, not to cut you off, man. They only went to one side. They only talked to Plant. They never contacted Reynoso or Canelo to get
I
their
only got like 20 more seconds of stuff I want to say. Here, you can go ahead. I heard that part. I'm gonna say something about that. The Canelo side came out and all they keep talking about is the multiple fight deal. They're not refute. They didn't refute anything Plant said. They didn't say any of it was a lie. They have come out and made a statement and they didn't refute any of it. But my point is, I think genuinely what I think people are missing, or what I think, and it's just my theory. But I think Canelo, you got to look at Canelo like you look at these basketball and football players. I think Canelo may be a free agent, but I think he's a restricted free agent. I think that the zone has some kind of hold on him that came out of that litigation. And I feel like that even though he can go somewhere else, I think they have the ability to match whatever's offered. And I say that because of things I've heard Eddie Hearn say and things that I've heard Canelo say as well. When it comes to his next fight, when they were talking about Plant right after the what's the name fight, after the last fight. But that's all I got.
All right, can I go? Yo.
Yeah, go ahead, man, go ahead.
All right, so I mean, at the end of the day, I think PBC needs Canelo more than Canelo needs PBC, and their $40 million guarantee offer pretty much proved that. Heyman didn't even give that to Fury or Wilder for their rematch. You know what I'm saying? And that's because they know how much value Canelo brings to their brand. If they offer him $40 million, it's because they know he's worth more than that. They know that he's going to bring in more than that. And right now, PBC, they bleeding money with guys like Caleh Plant. That's not making, I mean, they're not really making money off that dude. He's kind of a nobody outside of hardcore boxing fan. PBC, they barely making money off of, a lot of their fights. I mean, outside of the big fights like with Spence in the Cowboy Stadium. And even Wilder's stock is kind of, he hasn't been fighting, you know what I'm saying? He hasn't fought since in almost 2 years, they need a superstar like Canelo to bring some life back into their network. Pacquiao's on his way out. This fight would basically be, that fight would have been sold 100% out the back of Canelo. So it's only right he gets his guarantee if Plant loses or gets hurt or whatever the issue was. Maybe not a full, maybe not the full 40 million, but something substantial.
Now,
I don't know why they couldn't.
Now hold up, real quick, not to cut you off, let you continue, but I heard that PBC agreed to let him get a replacement. However, they wanted to pick that replacement. That's what I heard.
Right. Yeah. So PBC just got to accept that they're not the only network on the block anymore, man. It's like you got the Zone, ESPN still out here, man. If they want to land a big fish like Canelo, they got to outbid everybody else. Same shit with Bud. If they want to land Crawford, and they better be willing to pay him better than what Top Rank is paying. Call it maneuvering, whatever. And then it's gonna be in their best interest with Porter because he gets his title shot. But not to get off subject, but I know a lot of PBC fans, and I'm not a fanboy of any network, by the way, man. I don't give a fuck about what network you fighting on. I just want to see the fights get made. So yeah, that's pretty much my take, man.
Okay, cool. Let me go real quick because I got to run myself anyway. So yeah, with D'Lo, 404 boxing said, I pretty much agree with what he said. Like, Canelo, the stuff, what I've seen from, what we've seen from the PBC side in terms of what they were willing to give Canelo, I don't see how you don't take that fight. Like there's nothing there that says that this is a deal breaker. And the only thing that I saw that was like a super diva move that he could have just been like, well, I don't want to, I'm out, is him stating like, oh, if something happens, I don't have to fight Plant. I could just fight someone else and get the same pay. Or Plant has to, and then the flip side, Plant has to wait for me, but I don't have to wait for him. And we've seen this in the past with Canelo, where he's fought Yildirim's and other people and got big paydays. And I feel like he's just in diva status right now.
He hard-headed, man.
Yeah,
he hard-headed. Canelo hard-headed, and Heyman hard-headed. They gonna make this fight eventually.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, I agree with you as well, where you're stating that at the same time they're not making a whole bunch of money off of Caleh Plant either.
No,
on the
they
PBC side.
They're
So I just have an issue. I'm not because I have Canelo beating him, but there's an issue I have with Canelo where, with the Andrade, the Jamal Charlo, now Caleh Plant, for fights that the fans deem that would be a challenge, even if I believe he's going to win all those fights. But for the fights that we believe is a challenge, that are unifications of title fights or for undisputed, he's not making them. He's just jumping around and doing whatever the fuck he want to do with whoever he want to do it with. And it's just tough for me to support that. And I can't say that I don't support him as a fighter, because I think he's a great fighter. I think he's the best counterpuncher in boxing. And I think just all around, he's the best fighter. But on the flip side, when I look back at the Mayweather era and people say, oh, Floyd didn't fight this person, or he ducked, or he chose, Floyd ain't doing what Canelo's doing. He's not. He fought the guys that he may not have fought guys when you wanted him to fight those guys, but he fought those guys. Like the only person we could really say in Floyd's career, we say, okay, well, he pulled the Canelo move like with Jamal Charlo and Andrade, is when he didn't fight Thurman. But he was at the tail end of his career doing that. Like it was huge business. It was Showtime. He's making a lot of money, and they were making strategic moves and all that stuff, and they made all the money they were supposed to make and more with the Pacquiao fight, the first one, the only one. So Canelo got to do better. That's what I'm saying. Canelo has to do better. The Max Stroke Vision says Floyd did the same ish. Stop it. I'm just saying.
Well, all the big fighters did.
I'm just saying. But
Floyd fought guys coming off of their best win or best recent win.
Right.
The last time Canelo fight somebody coming off.
Exactly.
And another difference between Floyd and Canelo is Floyd really separated himself from the opposition. Canelo don't necessarily do that when he is in there with somebody that can give him something.
Right.
So I mean, this European tour really don't count for me. These guys he's been over there in Europe beat up on, I just can't really give it too much.
Right.
And like Loyal to the Game said, I think Canelo's a hell of a fighter, and I do. But I don't like the bullshit right now.
Yeah, I have to agree. All right, guys. Well, listen, Bushido Boxing Terrell, I appreciate you bringing me on. I gotta roll because store's closing. But salute to D-Lo 404 Boxing. Salute to this other brother. You don't got no avatar, but salute to you too. Great debate. Let's do this some more.
Right.
And you guys subscribe to my channel as well.
Yeah. Subscribe to my man Loyal to the Game Boxing. Yeah, and go find him on Facebook too. Loyal to the Game Boxing.
Yep. Appreciate you guys and salute.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, but you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. Y'all go subscribe to my man D-Lo 404 Boxing and my man Steve McCarthy in the building. He gave us a special guest today. Shout out to everybody, man. I appreciate you guys for the time, and peace out.
Be easy, bro.